Michelle Lee was a bright and ambitious young woman with a promising future ahead of her. Born in 1987, Michelle had always been a driven and compassionate individual. She had a passion for helping others, which led her to pursue a career in nursing. Michelle was a beloved daughter, sister, and friend. She had a warm smile and a contagious laugh that could light up a room. Those who knew her best described her as kind, caring, and always willing to lend a helping hand. At the time of her disappearance, Michelle was a nursing student at Samuel Merritt University in Oakland, California. She was a dedicated student who excelled in her studies. Michelle was eager to make a difference in the lives of her patients, and was well on her way to achieving her dreams. Michelle's life was tragically cut short on May 27, 2011. On that fateful day, she disappeared from the Kaiser Permanente Medical Center parking lot in San Leandro, California. Michelle had told her friends she was meeting someone she knew, but she never made it to her destination. Her sudden disappearance sparked a massive search effort that captivated the nation. Michelle's friends and family were immediately concerned when she failed to show up for her planned meeting. It was unlike her to be out of touch, and as hours turned into days, their worry grew into fear. A missing persons report was filed with the San Leandro Police Department, and the search for Michelle Lee began. Volunteers joined law enforcement in combing through the area surrounding the hospital, desperate for any sign of the missing nursing student. Flyers with Michelle's smiling face were posted on telephone poles and storefronts, pleading for information about her whereabouts. The case quickly gained national attention, with Michelle's story being featured on news programs and websites across the country. Despite the extensive search efforts, days turned into weeks with no sign of Michelle. Hope began to dwindle, and the weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her loved ones. The search continued, but as time wore on, the possibility of finding Michelle safe and sound seemed to diminish with each passing day. Then, on June 2, 2011, a grim discovery was made. Michelle's body was found in a remote area of East Bay Regional Park, bringing a tragic end to the weeks-long search. The news of her death sent shockwaves through the community and devastated those who knew and loved her. The discovery of Michelle's body shifted the investigation from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. Law enforcement officials worked tirelessly to piece together the events leading up to Michelle's death and bring her killer to justice. As they delved into Michelle's life, one name kept surfacing: Giselle Esteban. Giselle Esteban was no stranger to Michelle. The two women had been friends in the past, but their relationship was marked by conflict and turmoil. Investigators soon learned that Giselle had a history of erratic behavior and harbored a deep-seated jealousy towards Michelle. As the investigation progressed, a disturbing picture of Giselle's actions in the days and weeks leading up to Michelle's disappearance began to emerge. Surveillance footage placed Giselle near the hospital on the night Michelle vanished. Text messages revealed a pattern of harassment and threats directed at the young nursing student. It became horrifyingly clear that Giselle was not just a former friend, but a dangerous stalker who had become consumed by her own twisted obsession. Section 4. A friendship twisted by jealousy. The roots of the conflict between Michelle and Giselle could be traced back to a shared romantic interest. Giselle had been in a relationship with a man named Scott Marasigan, with whom she had a child. However, the relationship ended, and Giselle became convinced that Michelle was the reason behind the breakup. Giselle's unfounded belief that Michelle and Scott were romantically involved fueled a burning jealousy that consumed her thoughts and actions. Despite Michelle's insistence that she had nothing to do with the end of Giselle and Scott's relationship, Giselle refused to believe her. She began to harass Michelle, bombarding her with angry phone calls and threatening text messages. Giselle's obsession with Michelle escalated in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. She began to stalk Michelle, showing up at her apartment and following her around town. Giselle even went so far as to enroll in classes at Samuel Merritt University, the same school Michelle attended, in an attempt to get closer to her and monitor her movements. Consumed by her jealousy, Giselle saw Michelle as a threat to her happiness and the well-being of her child, a delusion that ultimately drove her to commit a heinous act of violence. Section 5. Justice for Michelle. In 2012, Giselle Esteban was arrested and charged with Michelle Lay's murder. The trial that followed was emotionally charged, with Michelle's family and friends reliving the pain of her loss and the horrifying circumstances surrounding her death. Prosecutors presented a compelling case against Giselle, detailing her history of harassment, her movements on the night of Michelle's disappearance, and the physical evidence linking her to the crime scene. Despite overwhelming evidence against her, Giselle maintained her innocence throughout the trial. However, the jury ultimately found her guilty of first-degree murder. In 2014, she was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. While the guilty verdict offered a sense of justice for Michelle's loved ones, it could not erase the pain of her loss. Michelle's family continues to honor her memory through scholarships established in her name at Samuel Merritt University, ensuring that her legacy of compassion and dedication to helping others lives on.